According to the National Association of Realtors' latest remodeling impact report, Americans spent an estimated $603 billion remodeling their home in 2024. And when it comes to selling your home, typically homes that are in good condition sell for more money and faster. However, not every home should be repaired. So I'm going to go over the top 10 repairs that I think you should give some thought to, because you need to look at the home as a whole. Not every repair is going to give you 100% ROI. ROI is return on investment. It means you spend $10, you get $10 back on the sale price. And that's not always the case. So we're going to dig right in with number one, minor cosmetic flaws. So I'm talking about scratches, dents, maybe nail holes, stains, minor, not if you have animals and maybe they've done they've done a job on your woodwork or your trim and that really it all needs to be replaced. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about more of the minor stuff, the stuff that you could literally go down a rabbit hole and start fixing. It is not super expensive, to go through and make those repairs, but it could cost you money in terms of time. It's hours and hours. You see one and you save another. Being a type A person, I've gone down that rabbit hole, and the reality of it is it doesn't improve the functionality of the home. The buyers are not going to be concerned about it as much. It's not going to be a deal breaker on whether the buyer buys your home or not. It's not going to improve the sale price. It's not going to have it on the market sell faster, in the big picture. So I wouldn't be so concerned about that. But what can you do instead? Buy some magic erasers. I'm a big fan of these magic erasers. They are magic. I don't know how they work, but they do work well, especially when it comes to fingerprints, anything with oil. It just takes it right off. So high traffic areas, focus on those areas. Now, if you do have in your entryway, that would be the one area that I would spend a little bit of time. If you do have some dings on the front door frame, or when you first walk in the wall into the foyer and you see some nail holes in the wall, maybe you might want to spend some time there, but don't go down the rabbit hole because it's just not worth the time, and time is money. So I would skip that. Number two is going to be replacing old appliances. I get this question a ton, especially if you've been in your house for 15, 20, 25 or more years and the stove is functional. Maybe the dishwasher is functional. It's just old and outdated. I do not recommend replacing the appliances. You won't get your money back. The return on investment on appliances is very, very low. Now, the caveat to that is that they must be working. As long as they are fully functional, then what I would do instead is a really deep cleaning. Again, magic eraser, the magic eraser to get a lot of that grease off. I mentioned in a previous video that even steam cleaning the inside and the door, it does a terrific job, gets a lot of that baked on grease. But doing a really, really deep cleaning to your appliances instead of replacing it, I think is a much better way to go, because of the fact that buyers are going to want to pick out their own appliances. They're going to want to do their own thing, whether they want white or they want black or they want stainless steel, all the things. But it's not, you won't get your money back on replacing the appliances. Now, number three is going to be replacing the flooring. This is another question I get asked all the time because trends change, buyer tastes change, and if you have flooring that is maybe outdated, a home seller is going to say, gosh, is this going to hurt my house? Is it going to keep my house from selling? And the answer is, as long as that flooring is in good condition. And I want to state this, that when we're going through this list, again, you want to look at the house as a whole. If the rest of the house has been updated, the rest of the house has been, you've done a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money spent over recent years, and the only wart on the house is the flooring, then it would be, I would consider replacing it. But other than that, as long as you don't have, any major stains in the wood floors, if you don't have, serious, torn vinyl or worn vinyl, that is really now becomes a functionality issue. But if the problem is that they're just outdated, I would not replace it. You're not going to get 100% of your money back by investing in brand new floors. But what can you do instead? Clean, deep clean. I would invest the time to get, if you have tile, steam clean. If you have carpet, get professional cleaning right before the house goes on the market. Deep cleaning with a professional, have a professional do it. If you have hardwood floors, I would do the same. Do a nice deep cleaning. Try to get as much. You'd be surprised on how well hard floors shine up after a deep cleaning. And if you do have a lot of scratches, what you can do is put some area rugs down. And the whole idea with that is not to hide. You still want to let buyers know that if you have a stain on the floor that is not affecting the functionality of the floor, but it doesn't look great, you put an area rug down. But make sure you disclose it. Just make sure you disclose it, because the last thing you want is an issue at a final walkthrough or a home inspection because the buyer didn't know that stain was there. So as long as you disclose it, but an area rug will, absolutely dress it up and save you some money, on replacing the floors. Number 4, partial room renovation. So this is if you have, say, an older home, it's an outdated home, and you decide you're going to do just the bathroom. You're going to renovate just the bathroom. Bathroom's going to be beautiful, but the rest of the house, you're not going to bother with that because it just takes too much time, too much money to renovate the entire house. The problem with that is now it's going to be disjointed compared to the rest of the house. A buyer is going to walk in and say, well, that's great. I love that. But now it's going to put a spotlight on the rest of the house. The rest of the house is going to stick out like a sore thumb because, boy, if that's renovated, we got to do that. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. It's going to be a turnoff to a buyer. And it can actually work against you when you do that. The other thing it might do is it might raise some concerns with the buyer. And they may say, well, why did you renovate just the bathroom? Was there an issue? Were you trying to cover up something? Was there a plumbing issue? And you just don't want that type of negativity because that will lead to buyers walking away if they have any kind of reservations, especially if you are in a market where there is building inventory. If you have competition that you're competing against, other homes, you don't want to give a buyer a reason to walk out the door. So what can you do instead? You can do a refresh. You can do some painting, paint the walls. You can replace the hardware. You can paint the cabinets in the bathroom. You can paint the cabinets in the kitchen. Be very careful, please. If you're going to do this, I would emphasize, make sure you know what you're doing. I have seen so many bad paint jobs on cabinets, and it sticks out like a sore thumb. If you are not skilled at painting, if you don't know what you're doing, you don't want to take the patience, you want to take the time to do it the proper way, don't paint the cabinets. Please don't even attempt it because it'll actually work against you. But if you do, it can give it a nice fresh look and it adds some life to it and is way, way less expensive than doing a full remodel. Okay, number 5 is going to be minor plumbing and electrical. These are the things that are going to be the quirks of the house. Everybody's got them. Everyone has quirks in their house. These are things like the faucet that drips occasionally, or the light switch that you don't know where it goes to, or a light switch that works intermittently. It's not a main switch. Maybe it's a switch in the basement and you're like, boy, it's kind of funky. I got to take care of that someday. Or you maybe have a loose outlet. You have an outlet that really should be replaced, but it's functional and it works for now, but it needs to be addressed. It's just annoying. Those are the types of things that I would not, especially if you're going to need to hire someone to do it, I would not fix those. However, I would definitely disclose. And again, the reason being is the return on investment. Those are the little things that are not going to, you're not going to get one-to-one. You're not going to spend $500 for an electrician and get $500 more on the sale price of your house. And it is not going to help your house sell faster. It won't, because it's a minor quirk. It's just a minor quirk. The buyers are not going to, if that's the reason buyers walk out the door, that's not the right buyer for the house. Those are minor things. So what you can do is, if you are comfortable with doing some DIY, easy projects, replacing outlets, those types of things, or minor plumbing, again, if you're comfortable, if you have some experience in that, then absolutely, because it's not expensive. An outlet replacement is a couple bucks. I do those all the time in my house. I'm comfortable with it. I know how to do it, the proper way, the safe way. But if you're not, please do not attempt to do that. The other thing I would do is disclose it to the buyer. Make a list. This is what's wrong with the house. These are the quirks. Give it to them up front before the inspection. That is the key. Do it before the inspection. Why? because the inspector is going to find it anyways. And the last thing you want is the inspector to put up together a report and the buyer now sees that report and says, oh my gosh, their emotions kick in and say, there's a lot wrong with this house that we didn't know about. And then the wheels start turning, and that $500 repair now becomes a $1,500 repair in the buyer's mind because they're like, well, what else is wrong? What happens if they take the outlet out and there's something electrically wrong with the house? What could be happening here that's going to cost me more money? So they'll start negotiating on the home inspection for actually more than it probably would have cost to fix it because they didn't know about it. So disclose, disclose, disclose. Don't be afraid to make that list. I'm a big fan of disclosing everything. Put it right on the table, and then there's nothing. They have nothing to talk about. You knew about it. Now, the one caveat on all of these items is that it is going to depend on your area, your market, your situation, your house. It's very, very subjective because you might be in a situation where the house is perfect. It's a full renovation and there's nothing wrong, and there's a loose outlet. You should absolutely fix that loose outlet. Oftentimes it's hard to know. It's hard to know where you draw the line. It's hard to know where you should spend the money. And I 100% always recommend falling back on the expert advice of a good real estate agent. Now, when I say good real estate agent, I refer to them as the 20% area real estate agents. Now, there has been a few comments on the channel saying, what, are they charging 20% commission? No, God, no, somebody charge you 20% commission. Kick them out. Don't just show them the door, like push them out the door. That's ridiculous. No, I'm talking about the market as a whole. In my opinion, after, I've been in this real estate business for almost 30 years and having dealt with a lot of real estate agents, it is my opinion that about 80% of them today are not worth half of what they're getting paid. They're not skilled. They're not highly trained. They are not putting your best interests before their own. And they don't have the experience. They don't have the experiential knowledge to be able to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. Those are the agents that will say, renovate everything. Replace all the appliances. Absolutely replace all the floors right out of the gate without taking into consideration your particular circumstances. So get in touch with an agent before you start doing anything, before you do the prep work. Now, how do you find these 20% agents? Most definitely you start interviewing. You've got to start interviewing. I've done some videos on how to interview the agents, what questions, hard questions you should ask them. However, I do have a pre-vetted network that I have accumulated over the last 29 years of agents that do business the way I do business. These are agents that I have referred to consistently, to if I have someone that's looking to move out of the area, that's who I reach out to. And these agents are considered my 20% agents. If you would like, I can put you in touch with one of these agents. It doesn't cost you anything. I do get a referral fee from that agent if you decide to use them, but there's no obligation. I just want you to make sure you interview several agents. I always recommend interviewing at least 3 agents to make sure that you do your due diligence, and then you can align yourself with the agent that is a good fit for you. And that agent will be able to give you some guidance on whether you should do fix the scratches or replace the woodwork or do minor plumbing repairs for your particular situation so you don't waste time and money. Okay, moving on to number 6, old windows. Now, windows is a little bit subjective because windows do have a higher return on investment. However, typically I don't recommend replacing the windows. Now, there's going to be an asterisk on this, and this is going to be they have to be functional. So if they are cracked, if there's any broken glass, yes, you should replace it. However, if they're in good condition, they're in functional condition, I would not. So what can you do instead? Clean. I can't emphasize this enough, and cleaning windows is a pain. It's not fun. It's probably the least exciting thing that you can possibly do to get your house ready to sell is cleaning the windows inside and outside. If you have tilt-in windows, more and more windows, the number of homes that don't have tilt-in windows are becoming fewer and fewer and fewer. So most can tilt in so you can clean the outside, but you want to clean those windows thoroughly. I actually have a great cleaning spray that I use. I'll leave the link in the description for that. Fix the hardware. If the locking hardware is not working or broken, you can replace that and fix the screens. Now, depending on the time of year and where you are located in the country, a lot of people take the screens off. Taking the screens off does allow more natural light into the house. I think it's a good idea. But if you have screens that have holes in them, you can fix the screens, repair the screens. Does not cost a lot of money to do that. And that will spruce up the windows, save you a ton of money instead of replacing them. Number 7, replace the roof. I was watching a TikTok video the other day, and an agent came up and it was an 80% agent, and she said, to sell your house, you have to replace the roof. If the roof is older, there's no question about it, you have to do it. You, Mr. Seller, you have to replace the roof because that's the only way you're going to sell the house. It's the best thing to do. I totally disagree. I respectfully disagree. Why? Because the fact of the matter is you will not get your money back. You won't get your money back. The only reason you should replace the roof is if it's leaking. If you have an active leak, any amount of water, you should address it. At the very least, have a roofer come out and make a repair, but ideally you would replace it, because if it's leaking in one area, it's probably going to end up leaking in another area. But if it is not leaking, maybe the roof is just getting up there in years, but it's fine. It's fine. There's no signs of failure. Don't replace it. You won't get your money back. It will not be 100% return on investment, and roofs are getting expensive. Every renovation is getting expensive. You could spend easily $10, $12, $15,000 or more, and you will not see that in the sale price. So what can you do instead? What I would do is I would, number one, disclose if you know the age. Please do not quote an age to your agent or a buyer if you don't know that for a fact. So if you bought the house in the last 10 years and you haven't replaced the roof, and you think the roof is about 15 years old, and you tell the buyer that the roof is 15 years old, you can find yourself in hot water. You can potentially get sued because you misrepresented the roof. So unless you have an actual piece of paper, a permit from the town hall or something substantiating that claim for the year, unless you have that, don't tell them the exact age. You can tell them approximate. The roof is the original roof. The roof is, I believe, is 20 years old. Disclose it up front to the buyers. At the very least, you can do that. If it becomes an issue, you can give them a credit. But you want to, make sure that that information is put up front. The other thing you can do is check your gutters. If you live in an area that has gutters, I think gutters are a good idea, but a lot of areas in the country don't put gutters on homes. But if you have gutters, check to see if the gutters are cleaned. The last thing you want is to have a buyer pull up to your front of your house and see a tree growing out of your gutter. And you think I'm joking, happens all the time, because people walk like this into their home. They don't walk like this. They're not looking up at the house. And if you have seedlings or branches that are overhanging the tree, and those things stay up there because maybe the gutter isn't draining as much as it should, next thing you know, you've got vegetation. And it doesn't look great. It looks neglected. So I would, if you can, if it's a 2-story house, please don't get up on a ladder. Hire a handyman to do that. But clean the gutters, check the gutters, make sure the gutters are flowing freely, so at least you can get that water off the roof and it looks like it's been maintained. Number 8, driveway cracks or worn asphalt. I actually see this come up a lot. I actually was watching a YouTuber the other day. It said, "Oh, this driveway needs to be replaced. Look at all the cracks. It looks very unsightly." Do you know how much it costs to replace a driveway? Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. And that is, again, money that you won't necessarily see. That does not have 100% ROI to replace a driveway. Now, if your driveway looks like it just survived an earthquake, when you pull into it, you feel like you're off-roading when you pull in your driveway, I would, at the very least, get a quote from an asphalt company, from a driveway replacement company, to find out how much it would cost. And you may want to consider replacing it. But if you're talking about minor cracks, if you're talking about, things that are not significant, what I would do instead, number one, I'd clean it. You could power wash your driveway. It doesn't have to be cement. You can power wash asphalt. If you have trees near your driveway, I'm going to be doing that myself very soon because I have a couple trees that are overhanging my driveway and I've got let some moss build up on the edges. So I'm going to get out there with my power washer and my disc attachment and get that stuff up, make it look nice. You can clean it. Make sure you get your leaf blower out there, clean it up. If the cracks are minor, I would maybe look into doing a seal coat because seal coats are a fraction of the cost of doing a new driveway, and that will breathe some life into the driveway. And they'll come in and they will fill the cracks and they put a nice seal coat on top and it kind of makes it look clean and fresh. So if it's at that point, you can consider doing that. But I would not replace it just because the driveway looks worn or has a few cracks in it. Number 9, landscaping overhaul. I have seen this mistake time and time again. If you have some landscaping that looks uh, like it might be a haunted house, my kids used to complain about that when they were little. This looks like we're coming over to a haunted house. Our house doesn't look so great. And I would say, shut up, kid. Mom's doing the best she can do. But if you have, landscaping that really is not up to snuff and you feel pressured because of HGTV and you feel you're like, oh my gosh, you see the listings online and it's all beautiful landscaping and you got to go spend some money. Landscaping is expensive. It is massively expensive. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to a nursery and check out some of the costs on these plants. It is outrageous. And you will not get, if you put $5,000 easy, you can spend $5,000 on landscaping. And if you won't get that money back. $5,000 on the sale price won't happen. There are much less expensive ways to make your house have more curb appeal. So what can you do instead? Well, the first thing you want to do is I would get out there and trim the bushes. I would trim the trees as much as you can. You might need to hire some help, to help help you with this if that's not something you have either the tools for or maybe you just don't have the ability to do that. Having a handyman, a local gardener, come in, a local landscaper that can do it on the cheap, just to clean up all the dead stuff. If you have bushes that really have gone by the wayside, tear them up, get rid of them. You want to just, clean, neat, tidy. That's the biggest thing you want to focus on. Mulch goes a long way, adding some mulch to clean it up. And then making sure that the grass is mowed and edged on a weekly basis, especially during those seasons where you have some heavy growth. You want to make sure that it is nice and clean and tidy during your showings. Make sure, during the times when the buyers are going to be coming to the front door, you make sure that grass is nice and trimmed. And then lastly, you can get some splash of color. You can go to the nursery or go to Home Depot or Lowe's, buy some potted flowers. Don't have to spend a ton of money, but just to give yourself a little splash of color to add to that front curb appeal. But please do not spend a ton of money in landscaping because you won't get the money back. Now, number 10 is not a small fix, but I'm going to throw it on there anyways. It's the full remodels of kitchens, bathrooms, and I would even say, converting your basement into a finished basement or any other room, converting a bedroom to an office or any type of remodel. I don't recommend it if it's being done for the purpose of selling the house. I don't. You won't get the money back. You will not get your money back. You will not be able to realize if you spend $100,000 or $50,000, it's not going to help the house sell any faster. It's not going to put that $50,000 back in the sale price. What I do recommend instead is similar to what I mentioned earlier about doing some light finishing. I would recommend painting. I would replacing hardware, replacing light fixtures. If you want to breathe some life into a very tired kitchen, a very tired bathroom, you can do those things on the cheap if it makes sense. If the kitchen needs to be completely gutted, don't replace the knobs. Don't do anything. Disclose it and then price the house accordingly. That's probably the biggest thing is pricing it accordingly. Now, all of these repairs, are subjective depending on where you live. It is going to be different on one part of the country versus the other. And sometimes it does make sense, sometimes it doesn't. And I did include a link to a 2024 cost report that I thought was very interesting. It was a cost versus value to give you an idea of the highest return on investment repairs. Everything from replacing front doors to garage doors and how it adds up in your particular area. because certain areas are going to be more expensive to do than others. And it's important to look locally to make sure that it makes sense for you, not a broad decision that applies to everyone. The bottom line on this is you want to do your homework. You want to consult with your real estate agent for advice to make sure you're doing the right things that are actually going to help you sell the house. And not only sell the house, but make sure that it makes sense from a monetary standpoint. Because anything you do potentially will help, but if spending $5,000 is not going to net you $5,000 in return, does it make sense for you? And it's something that I really want you to take a step back and look at so that you don't go through unnecessary stress and do things that you really don't need to do. Now, if you want more videos on how to address your home, look at your home, decide what to do, updates you should do, updates you shouldn't do, you're going to want to check out these videos. I'm Jen Sylvester, and I'm here to help you be a savvy home seller.